Fired up. Let's go.
Here we go.
Shit my dad taught me.
We are in studio today with Ray Lugo. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks for coming, buddy.
So happy to have you, man. We have a tradition where we started off with a ChatGPT intro.
Okay.
It's our way of phoning it in, but still looking like we prepared for the day. So ChatGPT says about you, Ray. It says, Ray Lugo is the founder of The Journey of the Crow, a transformative mind-body experience that weaves together breathwork, elemental rhythm, ice baths, and sound therapy. With a calm, grounded energy, Ray guides individuals into deeper self-awareness and emotional release through practices that are as ancient as they are effective.
Wow.
So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Known for holding powerful safe space, Ray's sessions are about reconnection to self, to stillness, and to strength. Whether you're battling stress, grief, burnout, or simply seeking a deeper sense of clarity, Ray creates a setting where breath becomes medicine, the body becomes teacher, and transformation becomes inevitable.
Bingo.
No jail time, no criminal record. What? This is kind of boring. No.
Pretty clean. Tell us about what you do, Ray.
So I'm right now focused on breath work. That's kind of like my main thing. It's trying to bring all the elements of resetting the nervous system and trying to offer people that safe space where they can come and release. A lot of the emotions are always trapped in the body, trapped in the fascia, and then also trapped in our subconscious. So through breath work, through ice bath, and through music, we can realign and reconnect with that sense of belonging, of being, and understanding that we are loved above everything else, that we have to focus on self-love, which has nothing to do with narcissist traits, right? We have to separate that. Self-love is understanding that we need sometimes to sit with the emotions. We need to release the emotions that we have, but we have to sit with them first, analyze them, let them be with us, right? So grief, happiness, excitement, anxiety, everything. So, and through breath, we regulate, right? If you see the ancient connection of words with breath, in Greek, the same word for breath is the same word for spirit, which is pneuma, right? So it means that we breathe in spirit. That's our connection to the oneness of God, right? So basically it's allowing people to be empowered, to show them that you don't need anybody else to heal you but yourself.
What is the journey of the crow?
So the journey of the crow is me. It's kind of my story, how everything begins probably around 40 years ago. I had a near-death experience. I was a family trip during COVID in Tobermory, pretty cold. We went with some friends, and we were going to be there for 4 or 5 days. So we decided to go to the grotto, kind of typical plan, everybody sitting out, spread out. And a friend of mine goes in, he goes for a swim. He swims all the way to the grotto. He comes back and he says, hey guys, you got to go check out the cave. It's a pretty cool space. So his wife and I are like, okay, let's swim. Let's do it. I haven't, done anything in a while. And she's like, I'm every day at 6 a.m. doing my calisthenics. I'm ready for this. Okay, let's go. So before that, the day was sunny, like sunshine, beautiful. The water is crystal clear, pretty cold. And it was like a nice environment, all flat, plateaued. So, okay, nice opportunity to go for a swim. So we go in, jump in, and then we swim like to a first stage where there's like a little entrance, like a first cave kind of thing. We take a breath, we go up, we start checking out all these things. And by that time, I was working in the bank. I was like a 9-to-5 guy. I had all this completely detachment of what you would say the spiritual world, right? Or being in touch with myself. So we start swimming, we do this, we take a break, we breathe, and then when we're going to jump back in to go around the grotto into the cave, it's like the sudden perfect storm aligned, right? The day got gray, the waves, like the lake started to have waves, which I hadn't seen in my life before, and I used to surf, back in South America before moving to Canada, and I've never seen the behavior of water in this way. So I'm swimming, trying to go, I'm starting to feel numb out, my body's trying to get, a little bit of warmth, but I can't. And then I see my friend's wife coming back with her goggles, all flipped up because of the water chopping. And she's like, I can't swim. I can't feel my body. And I'm like, okay, if she comes to me right now, we're both going to drown. So I tell her, start going towards the rock, right? And go over there and I'll try to see if I can get some help. At this point, I'm thinking I still have energy. I'm going to save the damsel in distress, whatever. So I start to float right at that same spot, and I start to wave to people that are jumping from the cliff, and they don't hear me. I'm like, okay, this is weird. Then I turn around, and there's a boat where the divers that go underneath the grotto with the scuba tanks are also kind of like giving the rules and, you know, checking their tanks. And I'm trying to yell at them, but the waves keep on getting higher and higher and higher. At this point, I'm already kind of gassed out. I have screamed like for help, like, I don't know, more than 10 times, and I have no air left. And suddenly my body just crashes. Like I just feel my hand trying to move it as fast as I can, and I see it move in slow-mo underwater. I'm like, okay, this is bad. I can't move. I can't feel my body, and I can't breathe because I'm feeling out of breath, right? I'm gassed out completely. At that point, it just felt like the currents underneath started to pull. And that's the moment where I just kind of panic. I'm like, okay, I'm going to drown. I'm going to die here right now in the middle of, you know, a family trip, you know, and all these things start to happen and pop through my mind. At that last moment, it was just like, okay, I need to give up because I can't swim anymore, right? It's one of those things where you're like, you come to the realization that you're going to die. Like, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to let go of life, right? So at that point, 2 waves hit me, and then I just decide, like, I just go underneath. Go under, and then the struggle begins, right? Like while I'm coughing, water comes in back and forth. I'm trying to swim, moving my legs inside. Nobody hears. I can't scream at that point because everything that I do is just swallowing water. And there was a moment where I was like, you know what? Just let the fear go away. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Just kind of, you know, it reminded me of those decisions you used to take when you were a child. You're like, okay, let's go ahead and jump from the cliff or do these things. And you're like, you get that courage to just do it. So there was like a courage to just surrender, to just let things happen. And if it's going to happen, it happens. So I think my friend's wife, the last thing she sees when she makes it to the rocks, so she turns around and she just sees my hand going under the water, and that's it. Once I was underneath, that's the battle. Like you start to hold your breath as much as you can, but then there's a point you're going to just lose it, right? Breathe. You try to breathe in, and then just water comes in. So that was like for a short second, a battle there of, I don't know, 10 seconds. After that, it was like a complete silence. Like I just surrendered to everything. It was a way of, even before going underwater, my last words were, I'm sorry. And that was it. I don't know why, but it was something like just looking up and trying to not drown, and I'm sorry. And then I just went down, and it's like, okay, I'm going to die. So during that process, it's like time became still. There was no noise, literally the same sensation of being underwater, but it was deeper than that. And there was just like a pause, and there was no pain. I suddenly stopped feeling everything. Like I didn't feel my body anymore. I didn't feel cold. I didn't feel anything. It was just like a stillness of a moment where mirrors just started to flash, like moments of my life right now, like being with my family when I was a kid, parents, like friends at school, university, like everything was just popping up. And it was a feeling that suddenly I was just overwhelmed with a feeling of love, that I felt like everything was going to be okay. Everything was going to be fine. And I wasn't there. Like I was somewhere else, right? And in that somewhere else, I kind of received, it's like you don't hear things, but you just feel them, right? In a way, I don't, like it's hard to explain it. And I felt that there was something greater, that we're here to fulfill the purpose, right? And it's like, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, then why are you here? And then suddenly there was like a very, very subtle voice that just whispered, swim. And then I felt the pull coming out of my, like something just kind of allowed me to feel body again, which was really painful. And that kind of pulled me out of the water and pushed me all the way to allow me to swim again to like the rocks where I barely make it, get up there. And then I kind of passed out throwing up water for a while, and people came. It was like a big thing. I was purple, you know, hypothermia, everything else. And I do remember that one of the most shocking things was to come back to the body, because I felt a pain that I haven't felt. It's like somebody would have shoved my soul into the meat suit, right? And it was feeling so like so many nerves, right? Like things that you would never feel before coming back online. And it was horrible. It was like, oh no, I want to go back to that space where I was right now, where you feel just completely like empty of everything. You're just in the moment of like, it's like an eternal moment, something hard to explain. So after that, a lot of things started to happen in my life. I think people call it in the spiritual community, spiritual awakening, right? It's like becoming aware of like, what am I doing in my life? What is this message that I receive? What should I be doing? And at that time, I had stopped doing everything that I did with music. I had stopped kind of like being part of groups because of the pandemic situation. There was a lot of segregation and a lot of fighting and division. So all that caused me to kind of go and hide, right? Like in a cave, and just didn't want to be with society. I was kind of affected by everything, even family, right? Like everything was so delicate at that time because everybody had a decision to make, right? It's either this or that, or you believe in this or you believe in that. It was like, so I kind of withdrew myself from the equation, and that I think was the worst thing. It's like once things started to flow later on, I noticed that we all have a purpose of being here, and that's just to be. That's just to exchange energy, to be with each other, to share our experience, right? To mirror ourselves and to be part of that. And if we're not doing that, then what's the purpose of being here? Like we have something unique, everybody, and that's what we all have to share. You know, it's just being there sometimes. Some people, it's like, oh, we're human beings, not human doers, right? Just by being is kind of like who your essence is and what you're supposed to be there for the world, and how you can share like the tools and the gifts that you've been granted with, right? So a lot of things happened after that. I thought it was a religious moment, this Holy Spirit coming and this or that. So I joined like a Pentecostal church in Christianity. I was playing with the band and going back to music, like trying to find myself. Then a lot of Bible reading, scripture. That kind of was the first time that I got into reading something that was not your typical, your average reading, right? And I guess because of the different generations and like our parents were very into the belief of things, right? So we always, as kids, want to do the opposite of what our parents do. So I was kind of like the black sheep of the family, rebellious, the only boy, 2 sisters. And I was always doing everything against what was supposed to be the rules. So never had any I didn't feel attracted to reading things that were religious because I didn't believe in that. But at that point, a friend of mine came. He was part of the church and this or that, and he said something that just crossed, my mind, and it was intense. And it was one of the scriptures of the book of John, and that kind of planted a seed. And I'm like, let me debate this. So I started to read, because he's like, well, if you want to debate God, right? And I'm like, oh, so you're bringing Bible things now to talk. That was good, and that kind of opened up the curiosity. So that opened up a Pandora's box, which led me to not only study scripture in the way it was, but let's go to the origins, let's go to the Greek translations, let's go to the Aramaic, or whatever we can find in the past, because there were things that sometimes you start to feel this discernment, you start to build it, and you start to kind of question also like the pastors and people. It's like, well, but how about this contradicts this and this or that? And there's they never want to give you an answer, like a clear answer about things. And that just kind of awakens more your curiosity into going deeper and figuring out, like, okay, let me go to then like the Torah, and let me go to other books that tie this to the Bible, kind of figuring that story. So long story short, I ended up kind of defying the church. I got, this kind of attitude where they're like, if you're not with us, you're against us, right? And anything that you might practice that doesn't align with this, then it's, witchcraft, or it's, what do you call it? It's blasphemy if you're talking about things. So that was a pretty intense trip itself. It was almost like the next 8 months of what happened after the near-death experience. And after that, it just got deeper into going into esotericism, right? Like esoterica. Let's read things that have a little bit more of explanations that align with what I'm resonating with. Like, what's my truth? What do I think about things? Like, what is God for me? What are these things? So it's like I started to explore and go deep in other things. So reading, Sumerian tablets, like Book of Thoth, the Kabbalion, and all these books that talk about, the oneness, the rule of one, and why are we here, and all these things. And then you start seeing kind of like all the flaws that society has with religions and all these beliefs that have been imposed to just, in the end, control. It's just control, power control, right? And they do it through fear. So a lot of that allowed me to start tapping into things that you start going within, right? You start kind of meditating, you start doing other things that bring you closer. So while doing that, reconnecting with music and trying to do these things, my back gave in again. I had 10 years ago a surgery for a herniated disc. Then 10 years later, it happened again. At this point, like my whole sciatic nerve was pinched, like my leg was not working. I had constant pain. Went to the medical system, and that was my other rabbit hole through, the medical system. What's going to happen? Like, can I depend on it? Can I not? And at that time, I was still trusting a little bit certain things, right? Like I knew because of pandemic, there were a lot of red flags here and there. I mean, what's happening with the medical industry, with the pharmaceutical industry. It's like, this doesn't sound okay. This sounds pushed. This sounds this way. So start doing my research, start trying to get a little bit of clarity on who's going to do what doctor's going to treat what. And then for some reason I get lost within the whole list, right? Like, we can't see you. It's not urgent enough. We're going to back you up. We're going to put you in the waiting list and this or that. So time goes by. It's almost a year now. And then I'm kind of losing everything. My body's completely deformed. Like my back is completely shifted to the right. And at this time, I had only 2 sons at this time. Now I have 3. And our second boy, or our middle child, he's been diagnosed with autism. So my wife was having to deal with her husband kind of decomposing physically and mentally, because my mental health was also getting hit with that, while, she was trying to tend to our son, who had a lot of needs at that time. So it was like, and I was kind of like continuously being put in a corner where I was left alone, right? And I feel that was kind of, I don't know if you have to call it spirit or God or whatever it is, but that was the process, right? Like, and I always remembered like all these scriptures, like from Book of James, that says like, rejoice when you're going through trials and tribulations, because that means that you're kind of going through the next evolution of your spirituality, right? Like you're understanding, you're feeling. And it was really hard to understand it at that moment, because I was going through the whole process. But there was a point where I touched rock bottom, right? Everybody, I think, has to reach to that point until rising back again as the phoenix. And it was like that. It's like a complete depression, mental, physical. My body was out. Like as a man, my use of sphincters were kind of being lost because of the pressure of the sciatic nerve. So there was a lot of things going with that. And then it was recently to the near-death experience. So all these things were happening in a very short amount of time. And I wasn't kind of ready for it. We were still working from home. The bank was kind of being very intense of pressuring us to go back to work, but I couldn't even walk. So it was a very intense moment in my life at that point. After that, I decided to just pick up myself and start reading on other things that would allow my body to heal itself. And that's when I went through all the rabbit holes. I went through the rabbit holes of big pharma, of the medical industry, of the control of this or that. And then I hit on the 5,000 years of ancient Eastern medicine that has allowed people to heal themselves. So all the holistic approach. So I started to go down that. So Wim Hof was the first one to hit my attention. I'm like, okay, what is this guy doing? How did he do it? He talked about his life, how he, got over the grief of his wife's suicide through the cold therapy. And I'm like, you know what? If he talks about cold being something that heals this or that, I'm going to start doing the cold plunges just to go see if I can reduce swelling in my back and see what happens with the nerve. Because every time I went to the doctor, he just wanted to pump me up with pills. Like, oh, here you have morphine, heroin, whatever it is that will make you feel better. I'm like, I don't want any of these things. I just want to try to, feel better naturally. And I did like 3 sessions of epidural injections in the back. It was the worst thing that I could have done. Now I'm probably feeling the consequences of that. And it didn't do anything. Like, it didn't take away the pain or whatever it was. So starting to do the breathing therapy, the cold therapy. Then I started to do the breathing that he does. And then that took me to understanding what is all this behind the breathing. Like, everybody's talking about breathing, holotropic breathing. What is it? What's behind it, the science, right? So I started to study on that, figure out what it was, the reset of the nervous system, parasympathetic versus sympathetic, and all these things. Like, okay. And you kind of opened the little book of biology there again.
For a guy that didn't like to read, you sure ended up reading a lot over like 3-4 years.
I know. And that's funny, because I never wanted to read when I was a kid. Like, it's just action doing this or that. And then these were my years where I was like, okay, so now it begins. Now I have to start really understanding what's there. And then internet will always give you like a very short version of things. It won't give you, the actual meat until you go and you start looking and you start, searching and he who seeks will find. And that's very, very there. So I started also going back into my South American roots and trying to see what was calling me regarding plant medicine, right? I'm okay, if I need to bring my mental state into a specific, place where I have to connect with something higher, I know that I've been there when I drowned. So can I do that again? So breath allows you to do that. And you can do it let's say, as Wim Hof says, you can get high on your own supply, because when you breathe with these breathing techniques, what happens to your body is that you're stimulating the cerebral spinal fluid that goes up your spine, goes all the way to your head, and it hits your pineal gland. When it does that for a certain amount of, minutes, it's going to start segregating what is DMT, dimethyltryptamine, right? Which is the same component that the ayahuasca has and other plant medicines out there have. But we have it, we produce it. So everything that's in nature, it's in us. And that's when you start understanding all these hermetic laws that as above, so below, as within, so without, because everything is here. So DMT is what the brain kind of releases when we're born, when we dream, and when we die. But you can control the production of it when you're doing breath work. You can consciously make it while you're breathing, and you're doing these exercises, diaphragmatic breathing, pushing your stomach to the back, and that kind of pumps the cerebral spinal fluid all the way to the top, and that starts to segregate. So when you get into that, let's say, state, you're allowing the brain to open the subconscious, or the doors to the subconscious, where you can actually see all the things that you lock up there, which are basically trauma. Most of it is trauma. So I started to do these practices, doing the ice baths, and then trying to figure out where would I be able to do the plant medicine ceremonies, because then you start to figure out, okay, there's a lot of this out there right now, like everything. Who's the one who's being responsible and carrying it out in the proper way, that people are not just going to go, oh, we went to this retreat and we had all these, highs, and I had a really bad trip. So all these things that you start to listen from everybody, it's like, okay, let's start to, and I think it's part of my personality after the drowning. It's like, okay, let's do the research. So I put on the geek glasses on, and it's just like, when I go down that rabbit hole, once I've studied it and I know completely, then I'll go and feel, like, okay, I can surrender to this and I can trust the process. So it was hard to get to that point. And right before the, that moment happened, for some reason, the surgery came through. The doctor was like, hey, we have a spot, we can operate and do a small intervention. We're not going to do fusion. We're just going to remove the hernia from the disc and leave as it is, right? So, okay, that's fine. That happened, and it was a huge relief. But it was funny because it happened right when my mindset had changed, right? Like when you feel that, and I see it now as I stepped into that timeline, right? Like as soon as I was ready to open those doors, then, I could walk through that, and that happened. So that allowed me to, to have a massive pain relief, which I had a year of relationship with pain. And I think it's very interesting to talk about that, maybe in another podcast, of how pain drives you to do other things. But once I started to the recovery process, it was the ice baths, it was the microdosing with psilocybin that allowed me to also go back into restoring my mental health, which was also something like, how do you start recovering everything that was completely torn apart? Because it was first, your spirit is broken, then your body is broken, then your mind is broken. So how do you align these things again? Like, how do you make everything right? So part of the work that I did for the mind was all the cold plunges, and that was amazing. Like all the spikes of, serotonin, like noradrenaline, like endorphins. It was just like the rush of happy mood hormones that I haven't had in a while. So the first ice bath was amazing, and I cried. I remember I just got in the water, and the first thing it was like the trauma of the drowning again, and the cold water and everything. I have to face it. I have to go back then. And I cried, and I released, and I started to understand. It's like, yeah, you can cry, you can sit down. Like as men, we're always, raised in a way like stand up, shake it off, walk it off. You're a man, you're tough, and this or that. Like don't cry, or I'll give you a reason to cry. Like you have all these things because our parents didn't know better as well, right? So they didn't have the tools, and it's like a whole generational process that we're clearing karma from thousands and thousands of years. So after that, I did the plant medicine ceremony, and that kind of was like, in itself huge, because I went back to the place where I was when I drowned, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then you start understanding how you receive messages from the ether, from spirit, like from things. It's not like I hear voices or this or that. It's something that you feel in your heart, and then that it's like it's gnosis, it's general knowledge that you have. Maybe people say it's past lives or it's something like that. I believe more of the string theory of everything's happening at the same time kind of thing, right? And you just kind of step into the timeline that you're ready to step into. And that allowed me to understand that my purpose was to be part of something that is the oneness of everything, right? Like what can I do to go back into not only what I feel that society is, right? Because I had like a grudge against society at that time because of COVID, right? Like everything that happened there was pretty traumatic. I think for everybody. Everybody had trauma at that time. So how do I recover and how do I unlearn all the things that I thought I knew? And then how do I learn again how to be what's the best version of myself that I can become? And how can I help, everybody else that's going through this? Because that's when I understood is like, if I'm going through this, how many people are going through so many things? And how can you just become a mirror to them to show them that you can do this? You don't need to depend on anybody else. You don't need any system to tell you what to do. You can do it all. You can do the research for everything. It's out there. It's just called like reading, which we kind of haven't done in a while. Everybody's like, oh, why do you say this? Because I read it here, and this is how you back it up, right?
And reading beyond the top line, like you said, you got to go digging for a lot of the right answers.
Yes, and most of the things,
first couple scripted things that it shows you,
they hide them. The algorithm hides it. Like if you go and you search for something, the first pages are always going to give you like mainstream media kind of things. But if you go deeper, or go other searchers or search engines or things like that, you're going to find things that are deeper. And of course, books. Books will always give everything away, like books that have been there like, since, I don't know, 1920 something or 18 something. It's like encyclopedias or things like that, where other things were mentioned different ways and everything starts to change. So those are many rabbit holes, and you start figuring out who controls McGraw-Hill, who controls this, who controls that. And then you see that it all aligns with the narrative that we're all kind of living today. And we have reached to that point where everybody's kind of waking up. Like the things that are happening are a necessary evil. Like it has to happen. So everybody kind of, is shaken, that everything is kind of shaken in their tree, and everybody awakens to, okay, what's happening? And then you start questioning things, because that's the only way that you build discernment, when you question the things that are out there. It's like, why am I have to follow the instructions of this or that? Or who is this guy to say, what's better for me, what's best for me? So I think, long story short, that's kind of the whole thing with the journey of the crow. And it's a whole story that takes me into unlearning and learning again, like who am I as a individual, and who am I as part of the collective, right? And what comes after that. So during the breathworks, during the plant medicine ceremony, we did a breathwork that was, for me, much more transformational than the actual plant medicine. And that style of breathing, it's the one that I facilitate today. I kind of fell in love with it because as a musician, it allowed me to connect to the rhythm of the music and feel the drum beats in the heart to a specific BPM. And it was easier to follow the prompts and then change the way you breathe mixed with the elements, right? So earth, water, air, fire, and all these things are like techniques that you do and you mix them, right? And then it allows you to produce, either more oxygen or more tolerance to CO. And that is like what allowed the DMT to be, kind of produced or segregated in the brain. So it was, not segregated, so released. So it was like 3 days of having the same experience, but 2 with plant ceremony and 1 doing it by myself. After that, I decided to go deep with that and just become that, become that moment for everybody. Just be a facilitator that would hold a space, that would go into the breathing techniques, mix it with the cold therapy, using the music that I do to actually produce the music and make the music of the breath workshops. So I'm at a point right now where I'm starting to do the music live, like to do loops and things for that with the instruments that I do, to kind of make the experience a little bit more live, right? What people need sometimes is that healing of frequency, like different tunings on different instruments with different frequencies that'll help you either balance if it's, any kind of emotion, or there are things, right, that you can find out with frequency, that you can even eliminate parasites. Like you can do things with the right frequency. So it's a study of mixing that with the breath work, with the cold therapy, and just holding the space for people, right? Trying to be there and understanding how the energies work. How do people have their own energies, and how do you allow yourself to protect the space for people, protect yourself, and then show them how to protect themselves from not being drained from energetical vampires, which is also out there, right?
Right. Are you still doing the microdosing with psilocybin?
I do once in a while. Depends. Like I don't do it on a fixed thing. It's depending when I feel the cycle's needed, right? It's something like sometimes when you feel that you have a calling for things, right? You're like, okay, I got to go back to doing this. The same thing, I had the calling to do fasting recently. So I did, I tried to do 7 days. I was barely made it to 84 hours because after that, my glucose crashed. Not know why, like still trying to figure out what happened there. But it was like listening to your body, like what's going on? What do you need? So detoxing, cleansing, and doing different things at the same time. But I think that's where I am right now, is kind of focused on those things, those areas, and specializing now in the integration coaching part of it as well. Because a lot of these like retreats or things that people do as a group, it's great when you're 48 hours outside the city and everything is nice and you have cold therapy, hot therapy, you're relaxed, you have nature and this, that. But what happens when you come back to the madness of the city, of the world? You know, you go back to your place, the kids are going crazy. You know, now I have a big baby, you know, my middle child, which has his sacred difference and all these things. It's like, and then I have one starting in teenage years. So it's like being between the three, and how do you manage and how do you integrate all these things that you're learning without just going crazy? Because you're trying to become the best version of yourself, not only for yourself, but for the people around you. It's like the same theory of the airplane and the mask, right? Like you need to breathe first so that you can be able to help everybody else around. So a lot goes with that in hand.
How do you talk about all this to your kids, and do you go deep with them?
Well, only to my oldest child, like he's 12. So I try to first just show him things, right? Like so that he can feel them, so that he can understand them and see how he deals with them. So for instance, we're now working on box breathing, which is pretty simple. So you breathe in for 2 seconds, you hold for 2 seconds, then you exhale for 2 seconds, and then you hold for 2 seconds on empty, right? And then you can increase the time that you're holding or you're breathing. So for him, I only do it for 2 seconds just to teach them because of their capacity. But then he's doing that 10 minutes before sleeping every day. And he's noticed the difference. He notices how he goes to bed more relaxed. He doesn't have issues falling asleep. He doesn't have the anxiety that he might have because next day I have a test or I have this or that. So he understands the benefit behind it. So I'd rather show him at this stage and do the things than not explain too much, because sometimes their capacity for understanding these things are like, you can talk to them and you see them. They're like staring at the wall and something's just going in and out, even though it's still staying there. So there's like, you know, gentle ways of approach, and he sees me doing these things. It's like if I'm, you know, talking the talk, I have to walk it, right? So he sees me doing the cold plunges. They go into the cold plunge sometimes. My middle child, he's fearless. That's something that I'll give all the kids in the spectrum. Fearless completely. He'll just jump into the cold plunge with me, like happy and laughing. The oldest one has to kind of control his mind, his thoughts. But now he found a way of doing it. So he'll like, Dad, put Judas Priest. And I'll go in. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Whatever, you know,
hype song,
whatever works. And he'll go in and he's like, and I'm like, if you have to yell, and he'll yell and he'll do all these things. It's like, just feel, allow your body to be there and to feel the emotions. And then he feels better. Like he'll say like, oh, I was having like pain in my shoulder. I don't have it anymore. These or that. So you start to educate them by giving them the experience and allowing them just to have their own opinion without pushing it, because I don't want to end up doing the things that my dad taught me, which is you end up doing sometimes the opposite. It's like, no, I don't want to do what my old man's doing. I want to do my own. I want to walk my own path, right? So it's trying to be smart in that way. Of like, I'll show you the techniques and then you see for yourself if it works or if it doesn't. So I'm at that stage with him right now, right? And then when I fall asleep with my middle child, he just kind of mimics my pattern of breathing. So I start doing the box breathing and he'll just follow, imitating, you know, the exhales. So I'll do longer exhales and he'll just fall asleep faster with that also, which was a challenge in itself. Like he's 6 now. So the first 4 years were very, very intense, sleepless nights. Like, you know, parents that have kids in the spectrum understand like what it is. It's you can go 3 nights without sleeping and your mental, you know, health is pretty affected. So all these things happening when your body is breaking down, and it's like, it was a lot to take. But there's a saying that's like, God will never give you more that you can't handle. So like, okay, bring it on. We're ready for the next step, ready for the next stage of whatever comes. So.
Are you doing this mentoring or teaching or like helping others reflect like as a full-time thing now, or are you still at the bank? Or?
Yes, no. So the bank laid off everybody in October 2023. And since then I've been what's called the void, right? It's like, okay, So I've tried to go back to corporate, like those doors are shut for some reason. It's like it just doesn't happen. But then a bunch of other doors are opening, right? So I'm like, okay, so let's learn to go with the flow of whatever it has to be. Like, I guess I have to be where I have to be, and that's it. It's hard sometimes because you're thinking like, okay, how am I going to do this or how am I going to do that? But there's always something that pops up. There's always, like I call, like, miracles happen every day. Like, it's just phone calls like, hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? And I'm like, okay, pretty cool. This aligns more to what I'm doing now. So it's either sometimes doing things with music, doing the breath works, like the workshops. And then there's people that are now calling like, okay, what are you doing that you have changed? Like, people that have known you for years, and like, what are you doing that's working? Because I see a completely different person. Like, I see you all the time, optimist and doing this and doing that. I'm like, wow, you should talk to my wife. It's things you do change. You do change for the best. You try to become more aware. Like, now I feel that I catch things faster. Like, if I'm and especially it's just the emotions, because that's the only thing that we can own, right? Once we understand that the only thing we can control is our emotions, and everything else out there is completely whatever it's going to be, then you start understanding like how to build within. It's like, oh, okay, so I can't control this, I can't control that, I can only control how I react to things. And that is kind of like the focus that I've tried to do now. So every time that there's an emotional moment about this or that, okay, have it, sit with it, but become aware. And how is this impacting, right? And what's the long, term of what's going to happen if you continue feeling this emotion, right? If you continue holding to these things. So it's trying to let go and breathe. So a lot of the breathing techniques is what has helped me to regulate nervous system. I think that's the key. Like, as soon as we understand that we can only regulate our nervous system, and that's the only way we can help our bodies to sit with the emotions and then alchemize them, like process them and release them, then we can start advancing like within. We can start progressing and becoming like the best versions of ourselves,
So what does a workshop or a retreat or like a weekend with you, what does it look like? Like for somebody that's like,
so workshops normally are 90 minutes. People will come. I will have, always present a nice safe space environment. So visually they can connect to understanding that it's going to be something to relax, to go deep and to go within. And it's always like the person's always in control. There's no kind of like push yourself or this or that. It's like, no, this is try to be gentle on yourself just by trying, and being present and showing up is more than enough, right? Like, it's brave enough to do these things, because a lot of it, the somatic release that happens, like people sometimes are, let's say like nervous, right? I don't want to sit in a space with other people and cry. I don't want people to see me vulnerable or weak. So it's offering the space. People come in, everybody lays down, mats. At the beginning, we have a lot of body movement, shaking, so that the energy kind of, is pumped up. Then everybody lays down, and I'll facilitate like several rounds of breathing with different breathing techniques that will take them to this point where they will go deep and relax. Because at that point, what you're doing is you're giving the monkey in the brain a banana. And while people are just listening to the prompts and following the count and the music, your brain is focused on a task. So the doors to the subconscious literally open, right? So after that, we do guided meditation where I allow people to do the connection with themselves with the Ho'oponopono, which is the thank you, I love you, I forgive you, I'm sorry, and kind of repeat those things within, and guide them to future self meditations to see themselves. Like, how do you see yourself, in any future that you want to pick? Because once you understand that when you're in that state, like, time is completely yours. It's paused. So you can clear things. You can release things that you've been hiding that can sometimes, I believe it's the cause of disease, right? Like, that's what makes everybody sick, is the holding of things that we have in emotions. I'm pretty sure that that's the root cause of many diseases out there. So that would be one experience. For retreats, I'm thinking about doing fasting retreats, which is completely the opposite of what's out there. I think there's too much offering of plant medicine or this or that, and it's all good and nice, but how about if you sit down with yourself and you kind of silence the world outside, and you not only fast with food, but you fast from electronics and you fast from the noise. And it's, what do you discover within yourself when you're fasting? And what's your relationship to everything, to food, to water, to yourself? And try to have, 48 hours at least for yourself and your body to detox and to restore and to feel. because we have so many excesses right now, even with the food. Like food is medicine, but that's a huge rabbit hole out there. Now you have, like, if it's GMO, if it's organic, the fact you have to, read organic in a supermarket makes you think like, oh, so everything else is fake, right? It's like if I'm buying in this little section, then everything else is just not real. So what's the food intake we need? And all these things, like all these relationships that we have, but personally, the one that you have with yourself, like how do you go deep with that? So retreats would be pretty much like that. It's like, and of course, having always a medical checkup before, like how are your blood levels, what supplements do you need, like at least magnesium, sodium, and potassium during these days, because the water, that's another rabbit hole. Like water today, what does the water have, right? And then we have all these filters at home, because then you want to strip away the water from all the bad things, but it also takes away the good things. So then you have to remineralize again, or put minerals back in the water. And then all these like details, right? And then how are you going to do the refeeding after that? I tried to do 7 days of the fast. I only did it to 84. But after that, my refeeding process was first a cleansing protocol with something that's called the 5x5 protocol. It's a doctor that he's actually from Venezuela. He lives in Miami. He's called Ludwig Johnson, and he talks about drinking 5 glasses of carrot juice during the day, 250 ml each. It's just carrot juice and that's it. And it'll flush out, it'll detox everything. To do this, of course, you have to remove certain things before, like no nuts, seeds, dairies, or cereal. Take these away. You can continue eating other things like, meat, veggies, but it's focused on the cleansing of the carrot juice and all the benefits that it has. So I did it, but without like the food, because I was kind of doing the refeeding process slowly. And then I started to incorporate things like, soft boiled eggs and, onions and sweet potato and things like that. And now my diet has changed completely, right? Now I only do fruits, vegetables, and all animal protein. And that's it. And water, no sugar, no dairies, all these things. If I find raw milk, I'll drink it, and I'll do cheese and everything with that. But I'm trying to like stay away from the things that are industrial, like things that are to control, right? So I'm in that rabbit hole right now of the feeding process and how to eat healthy, right? So
yeah,
how to and what is eating healthy, right? And then that's showing the kids as well. Like, how do I take all this intake of sugar and how do you make them not feel out of place with their friends and all these things? So there's a lot of challenges we're navigating, but I think it's taking it one day at a time, which is something that I've learned thanks to my middle child. Like, don't think about the future, just think about today and what can you do today. Tomorrow will be tomorrow, right? So
those fasts are awesome. Like Chris and I did a 90-hour fast, and it was phenomenal. Yeah.
Nice. And how did you feel when the state of ketosis?
Awesome. Yeah. Like the toughest part was like the first 16 hours. Once you hit that like 16-hour point, like your energy level just like skyrocketed, and we almost didn't feel hungry like at all. Yeah. And like we were super strict. It was just like water, 2 packs of electrolytes a day, and like 1 cup of black coffee we were allowed, or something like that.
Yeah,
and that was
good.
it.
I had like a lot of like herbal teas, right? Like lemon balm tree and all these things that I buy from a lady of a local farm here. Just like, and that's the same thing. Like now microplastics. Yeah. So how do I do my teas and this? Like, okay, you boil them, you use the steel colanders for it, and then you put everything on the herbs. So everything now is just changed, right? And how do you do these changes without having such a big impact on everybody's life, right? Especially the family, right? Because also my wife, she's like, I can't keep up with your changes. I can't keep up with this or that. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate the patience and the love. But it is a process, right? It's a whole process. It's a whole awakening, right? And a lot of people want to tie it to spirituality or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, we are spirits living a human experience, right? So it's all tied to breath, to spirit, to the pneuma of things, to the ether. So
yeah, I thought the fast was dope. I had a couple of cool experiences. Like we did it in January.
Okay.
It was snowy, wintry. I got to a little bit over 48 hours, and I had a moment of clarity that I will never forget. Like it was so cool. I was driving, it was snowing, and everything was dialed in. Like I could hear the snow, I could see it by the flake.
Yes.
Like I was just, and I thought to myself, I'm like, this has got to be some ancestral shit, because this is clearly like, okay, hunter, time to go get it. And it just like, I had this awesome moment of clarity and perception on everything. And I got up to 96 hours before I broke mine. And it was just, obviously I had to beat Jamie by a few hours, goes without saying. But it was one of those things where there was such peaks and valleys. Like,
Yes.
and the big one too is just the social norm, like in the social pressure. Cause I couldn't stop life for that period of time. So I had dinners and obligations and those kind of things. And like, people are just like, sorry, you're doing what?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, yeah, just for like, whatever. And they're like, oh, my friend told me that, and okay, well, cool. Yeah. Like this is what I'm doing. So, but that was the hardest part. And then, I'm so social with my food. I love to host. I love to cook. So just taking that away created a lot of space, man.
Yes.
Just where I'm like,
what do I do with this time right now?
With this, right?
Yeah.
And it was a neat mental exercise, and because we did it as a small group of us, it was pretty easy. Like we had the group chat going, and talking about hamburgers and whatever,
Keeping each other accountable.
Yeah, that's the big one too, right?
I think that's the key of what I've learned with coaching right now. Like I was so like, I don't like coaching or this or that or whatever. But then now I understand it's somebody holding you accountable, right?
Yeah.
And that is huge. That is huge. Having like
People have a hard time being accountable to themselves,
Yes.
but they feel embarrassed if they're not accountable to somebody else.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, and that's like your analogy of, we've heard it a couple times on the show about put your mask on for your oxygen mask on first, and you can help other people, but you don't do that. And for the first 35 years of my life, that wasn't even on my radar. But then you start to like have the kids and you're like, oh shit, I got to be there for them. And the relationships, and you're like, oh yeah, I got to show up in business. Oh yeah, I got to show up. So the more, and especially this year, we're doing it more than ever, that you can educate yourself a little bit, figure out what works. Don't just take one person's opinion.
Exactly.
Like even if they've got the white coat and 10 things hanging on the wall, like, okay, cool. So I'm going to take that, but then I am going to do a little digging. I am going to go a little deeper and talk to people. Like if I see a guy who's happy, healthy, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's a great question to ask, right? It doesn't mean I have to do it, but I can tell you now, having talked to some really smart people, there's always commonalities. And like the ones that I see coming out every single time, doing something for their mental health, and they can tell you exactly what, whether that's talk therapy or whether that's meditating or whether that's whatever, but something consciously for their mental health. They're doing something for their physical health. And those two things that seem to be what everybody says, I eat whole foods, minimally processed, and what I'm hearing a lot of guys say there is I'm prioritizing protein, and most people are talking about meat protein these days, I find, but whole, minimally processed, and they work out, and that can be whatever, that can be walking, that can be gym, that can be whatever, but they do that. And honestly, the other one, which is nice to talk to you about, is that spirituality piece, because like the question I want to ask you is, we've had people come in and talk about religion. We've had people come in and talk about spirituality. Those are two very different things.
Yes.
And I want you to take me back to your upbringing, South America, dad, being a black sheep. Talk about how religion played into that.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Venezuela, both my parents as well. And my mom is a doctor, and my dad was a business guy until he switched into politics because he wanted to save the world. He's like, I'm tired of being the one who talks bad about everything in family meetings and doesn't do anything about it. So I'm just going to go. And he actually did. He won. Like he became councilman and this or that. So he did a lot of things until he stopped to do, like he didn't want to do the corrupt things. And then they kind of put him in the back office, and so
can only go so far until you're a yes man.
Yes, exactly. But that's something that I appreciate from him, teaching me his values, right? Like you have to do what's right, no lies, and you own your mistakes, right, and apologize. So, but then their raising was very Catholic. My mom went to nun school. My dad went to public school, but his family were nine siblings. And they were pretty religious with everything. So they didn't want to pass that kind of religious control onto us. But still, we were kind of like the typical family that will go to church, every once in a while when they feel that
Easter,
the family
Christmas.
needs to Easter, Christmas, your typical dates and this or that. But there was no relationship. And then there was a lot of fear on my mom's side of leaving us alone with don't be the choir boy, don't do this, don't be with the priest. There's so many stories about this or that. So she had some kind of resentment a little bit against it because of being in nun school as well. So she kind of had, at that time they would slap and hit you and this or that. So she didn't grow up very, very fond of it, but she did have a passion for religion, right? After she graduated, she went to live to Israel, and then my grandfather had to go and bring her back. She didn't want to come back. So she was studying all the scripts and the text and this or that. But she never pushed down a belief. She was always kind of like, okay, whatever you want to feel it, but understand that religion is not spirituality, right? Like you can't mix these things. My dad was kind of like, whatever, I'll go if there's a funeral or anything he has to do. He'll just feel with it. I don't know how his relationship to God is, at this point. After many years, they got divorced, and now he got remarried, and he lives in Utah. So he became a Mormon, and that's another fun story, right? So,
but is he living like the Utah Mormon life?
Yes, he's living the Utah Mormon life.
How many moms do you have now? Yeah.
So I have 3 moms because when they got separated, it's because mom came out and said, well, I want to have another mom, like I want to have another partner, and so it was like a big story that also shattered everything. And at that point, I stopped being the black sheep. Yeah, something else. I knew there was something off of this family, because that's also it. Everybody grows up, and that's what I'm trying to show my son now. It's like, all these TV shows that they program you, they're showing you what families are supposed to be, but that's not the real thing. Families fight, families they quarrels, issues, they have passion, moments of engagement, right? And it's okay. The important thing is to, own your mistakes, always respectful, and always kind of like put the love in front of everything else, right? And then you work out things. So he always thinks that, my family's weird because, you guys have this quarrels or this or that. Like everybody's family is the same way. So my parents, that happened. My mom, my dad got divorced, and then, she continued her life with her partner. So I have 2 moms on that side. And then my dad kind of remarried and went to Utah, became a Mormon with another, and then I have another mother on that side. So interesting story as well. I have 2 sisters. My oldest sister was raised to be the two goody shoes. She does everything like straight A's and everything that mom and dad says. And if I wouldn't do anything, she would be the one who repeats, like, mom says to stop it, like, Ray, do this, Ray, do that. I'm like, okay. And she still is the same way, right? She hasn't changed too much. I love her and adore her, but she's still kind of like the oldest sister. She has that. Like, I have to be, some kind of the image of mom and dad. Yes. And then she took a really big hit when that happened between them. So, but everything is kind of, I think, okay now. And then I have my youngest sister. She came 10 years after me. Then she was not supposed to come. So one of those kind of like things. My mom at that time, after my birth, she didn't like have they did surgery, so she couldn't have kids anymore, or whatever. And then my sister popped in, so it was fun. I think I became a big brother without understanding what it was, but I ended up raising her. So she has like a really cool relationship with me because she ended up being kind of like my daughter, right? So I was like very much like parental with her, taking care of her, this or that. But yeah, it was always a lot of issues between my relationship with my parents. They were very controlling, a lot of things and I think it had to do with how they passed on these things. My grandmother was funny because she was the one who would say, like, if you don't need the bowl of whatever, you don't do this, like the devil will come and take you. So it was like a particular character in my life, but she also had a big influence on raising me. And then she was more of the one who would read scripture and who would do these things. But her origins do come from like local Aborigines from, I think it's the west end of our country. So she would play around with spirits and tobacco and, like the cards and spit out and, like all these entertaining things that I was trying to run away from. Then I've learned that it always skips a generation, right? So whatever she had, it skipped my parents, and now it landed on me. Like none of my sisters took it, so it landed on me. It's like, okay, thanks for the nice trials and tribulations that I have to pass on, the torch of the family. So that was interesting. And of course, I went through a lot of addictions growing up, a lot of abuse. In the South, you can start smoking like at 12 years old, drinking, there's no laws. It's kind of like the crazy world. So there was a lot of going through that. And I think that took a toll as well, right? Like that kind of made me live different experience, be very wild, had a lot of bad trips in the day. Now I understand that these bad trips that the medicines are showing you are exactly what you need to work on. So sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to go and see the things that the medicine will show me. It'll grab you and it'll shove your face into it until you kind of work that out. And then people don't understand the difference when you're doing, psychedelics for entertainment, which shouldn't be done for that. And when you do it to actually as a medicine to clear and help you guide things that you can at the moment because your addiction is being too strong to be released. So these things work for that. But yeah, I had a crazy life. I wanted to be a musician all the time. My mom wanted me to be the doctor of the house. So never took the med test. Always went to music, playing night times. They made me study business and made me pay for my own education while I was working as a musician. So it was cool. I ended up having a degree because of that. So I did have my studies, but it's always rebellious, always against whatever they have to say. And I'm happy. I'm happy that I always rebelled against everything because that allowed me to become who I have become, like to live my own experience, to learn from my own mistakes, to go through all the things that I've gone, right? And I've now learned to meet them where they are and not to parent the parents, like to forgive also. That's a huge one. Like not only surrendering, but forgiving. I think those are, and gratitude. Those are the big 3 words that I've learned in these last 4 years of experience, is that like every day being grateful for just being alive and being healthy, not having pain, like things that are simple, that my kids are healthy and they eat, that we have the capacity and the ability of, making a choice of things every day. So
not everybody has to go to Tobamore, go to the grotto and almost drown to find themselves.
No. Everybody has their own experience, but everybody will go through their own way or their own awakening, I think, to the world. Like, what are we doing here? What's the purpose? And,
And then, so you as a dad, if we had the kiddos on the mic and we said, tell us about your dad, what do you think they'd say?
Wow. I guess, I don't know. I guess they would say, dad's crazy. That's the first one, right? Like, that's not the typical dad. It's one of the things that my son said the other day. And, he was sad about it. He was like, you have your hair is long and you don't have the suit and you don't work at the bank anymore. Like, you're not like the other dads. And they go, okay, that's cool. How does that make you feel? Like, oh, I don't know. Sometimes I'm embarrassed, but sometimes it's okay. I don't know. It's like, because then he sees me on stage and he sees me
You're
playing.
the cool dad. Yeah.
So it's weird, right? And then his buddies are always like, yo, Diego's dad. What's up, buddies? It's like pretty cool. But I think he would say, dad's crazy, but dad's loving. Because he sees me doing cold plunges and these things, right? He's like, why do you do this to yourself? Because it's good. So he's at a point where he's also transitioning to becoming a teenager. So he's questioning now. Now he's defying. Like he's, I'll tell him to do something. He's like, but why? Okay, cool. So, okay, let's talk about it. But why? Don't give me reasons, right? Like give me your speech, right? So, but I think he would say, because my second one is nonverbal. So, but he always goes up, he's like, he does say things, he'll say words, he uses his talker, but then he does say, I love you, which is great, because that's like one of the things that I most needed to hear from him. So he'll jump in, he'll hug me. He's like, I love you. And that's a way of saying, I want up. So, but I think it's that, it's, also I shift a lot like a Libra balance, right? I just go, sometimes I could be very happy and then sometimes I could just be like very moody. And I think it has to do also with the influence that we have with the astrological realm around us. It has to do with personality as well. So I shift, but as soon as I kind of catch the awareness of it.
That's a thing with Libras. My wife's a Libra.
I haven't noticed that about Kate.
But you have to see the whole thing is full, right? Like astrology is all in her body, right? So you only don't have one sign. You have all of them. But one rules you, which is your sun. But then you have to see where was your moon at the time that you were born. So the moon rules your emotions. So moon shows emotions, right? The same thing as moonstration, like the cycle of the 28 days, 13 months. That all has to do with the moon and the importance that it has. I always forget what's the word for it. But anyways, as a planetary or a satellite or whatever it is, because we don't know, right? Like it's always a new way. I'm always changing how do I refer to planets or to orbits or to satellites. Like what is what, right? Like there's also another way of saying it, but it doesn't come to mind right now. But that's it. So you have, where was your sun located? And then you have 12 houses, right? So a lot of the Bible also talks about astrology and biology. There's things that you start seeing in the patterns, right? Like each one of the apostles represents each zodiac sign, right? So it's 12, and Jesus is the sun. So he's the 13th. So there's a lot of things that are there tied to that's hidden, right? Like biology is also there, like the 33 ladders that Jacob has to go and face the angel and pineal, right? That's 33 vertebrae that your cerebral spinal fluid goes up to your pineal gland. And then it's pineal, right? That's where he fights the angel and he rips the I think it's the rib from him when he's trying to. So there's things that are tied into the Bible that are really cool when you start seeing the astrology within it, you start seeing the biology within it, and it's just coded. It's coded for us to seek and find. If you start doing those, going down those rabbit holes, you'll see how it's all there, and it aligns with us. So, and it also represents the eras, like the era of Moses. You can see Moses' statues in different places, and they have horns, right? That's because it represented Aries constellation at that time. And then it moved into Pisces, which is the fish that represent Jesus and all that, patriarchal time of ruling 2,000 years. And now we're moving into Aquarius, right? And you can see it when it says, follow the lady that has, I think it's the wheat shaft in her hands, and it will guide you into the man pouring the water, and you'll find it. So it has to do with Virgo going to air, like to Aquarius. So it's all about constellations. It's talking about that as well. So we have all the zodiac sign within us, right? Like it's what rules you in the sun, what rules your moon, and then how all the other ones ruling your emotions, depending on the house that you have, how many planets, right? So in my case, I have like 5 planets in my 5th house. So my Libra apparently and my Scorpio will rule more my Aries, which is my sun. That's just going to give me my Mars kind of worry character where I want to do certain things, but then like the Libra is going to be out of balance if things are not being fair or just, right? So I just get like really angry because of that, unbalance there. And every once in a while, I'll go into my cave like the Scorpions will do, just to kind of go in, and I won't come out like for a month. And then I'll come out with a bunch of plans, a bunch of things, right? That's the way that the muse hits me. So we all have a lot of that, and we kind of have to learn a little bit of astrology as well. Like if you would give me the opportunity of like rewriting the school curriculum, like breath work and astrology and other things that have to do with biology and how everything is interconnected, right? Because that would be things that people really need to learn, right? Okay. Things that matter, things that are about us as spirits living the human experience, right? Like religion is not spirituality. Religion is just, for me, a man-made construct of man creating God, right? Spirituality is God creating man, right? It's different, so it doesn't tie. But I do respect everybody's belief, and I meet them where they are, right? I'm not going to push anything. Like I think everybody has their own truth, right? And whatever works for you, like the same way you were saying, the diets, like whatever you eat, whatever makes you healthy. I don't have to do it, but I like to share the truth, and I like to listen to your truth as well to see what you're doing and what might resonate that I might want to do as well, right? Just test it out. So I think that's part of the whole collective consciousness of how we grow out of this old world into the new world, right? How do we create the world that we want to live? Like Mandela used to say it, like, how do you do it? By actions and by sharing the collective information, not allowing like one voice to tell you what to do, but question the voice and then talk around with everybody else and what is everybody else doing? And where do we all meet at that certain point, right?
Yeah, we see that too, because I think there is, the mental health awareness piece continues to grow. And out of that comes some pretty great conversations, and emotional intelligence and emotional wellness comes out a bunch. You had said it that, you can catch yourself in that emotion and you go to it. So for a guy that knows that about himself, knows that it's turbulent, what's the best advice you could give?
Always take a minute to breathe. Like it's free. The breath is just there. It's the tool that connects you with life, and it allows you to just be still. Like just breathe in and be still and breathe out, and do it as many times as you can. And always the little trick that I always do for myself that works is twice the exhales. If you do twice the exhalation, it'll allow you to regulate your nervous system faster. So if you're breathing in for 4 seconds, like counting, you breathe out for 8. Try to do it all the time longer. And when you do that, it's just the exhale is where you visualize you're breathing in life, you're breathing in peace. But then when you exhale, you just visualize you're exhaling all the things that you don't need anymore, all the things that are just like, why am I holding on to this? Why is this? Like, is it important?
People are choking right now. They're listening to this, trying to do it while you're talking. They're like 5 seconds in, 10 seconds out.
Slow.
I saw Miles do it in the back, actually.
I'm also super fascinated with your the challenges you've had with parenting, the different styles. Obviously, having an autistic child. What are some tips you can give with other parents who are raising an autistic child?
I think there's a lot out there with that. the food as medicine is key. Like, how are you feeding them is going to allow them to clear their gut. I've learned a lot down this rabbit hole that the gut is our second brain, and there's a lot of activity happening there that needs to communicate so that they can be able to develop the areas of the brain that have not been developed because of certain things that have been in the back. It could be food, it could be intake of, pharma or whatever it is. There's a lot of things involved. So I would say food is the key. Like, try to do a good, healthy diet for the kids. If you can keep them away from sugar as much as you can, and I know it's hard, dairy and all these things that have like gluten, that have like swelling and inflammation, like it'll allow the gut to clear itself out. Patience, I guess patience is the key. A lot of love, a lot of tolerance. Like, there will be better days. There will be things that will come down the pipeline that will be okay. It's like, it's encouraging them that I know it's hard. Like, every day, it's really hard to try to balance life with all these things, like sleepless nights and things like that. But it's all worth it. Like, God has given you this child for a reason, and there's a big reason behind it, right? Like, you can tolerate this. You can do it. You can continue being the one who protects this kid and guides him into his next stage of evolution. Because I do see a lot of also other parents out there that encourage me to continue on the path, because I see their kids already independent, verbal, and doing other things. They're like, you know what? It is possible. Let's go. Let's achieve it. But I think it's a mix of, a lot of harmony, a lot of teamwork with your partner and your wife. It's like, that's key to be on the same page, right? And a lot of self-control, self-regulation. Like, do the things that you feel that you need to do, like, that'll make you feel better. If it's that, like, I have to go axe throwing, or I have to do, test my bow or fishing, like, do whatever you have to do. Also balance out your time with your partner, give them their time, and you ask for your time also, so you can kind of release the things that you feel, because all the challenges will always build up and will give you, all this extra stress of things. So just take a moment and grab something or an activity that will allow you to release, to be that escape exit for your personal, things, as long as it's always, something conscious,
Yeah.
You talked a bit about guys coming to you and feeling like they're stuck in the 9 to 5, or feeling like they're not gaining traction. What's the best advice you can give?
At this point, I think it's also sit with yourself and think. And that's when I think having somebody or a coach or somebody to question you and ask the proper questions allows you to open up your box of beliefs, right? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? What is happiness for you? Like, how do you see happiness? Do you find yourself happy today doing what you do? And if not, what can you do to change that? Or what is the cost of not making a change right now? What do you like long term for yourself? Like, how do you see things going, right? Because one thing is, I don't believe in the manifestation BS out there. Like, if you visualize money, it'll come. No, I believe that that's a wrong teaching of the law of attraction. Like, first learn to sit down with yourself and make peace with yourself. And then when you do that, you realize you don't need anything. So you don't have to attract anything. Like, you have it all. But the thing is, can you live with the fact of, can you make peace with that with yourself, knowing that you already have it all, right? And then I think things start to flow and the doors start to open on their own. And that's what I can sense of what the law of attraction is. But there's a bunch of people out there like, manifest, I'll make you manifest 5,000, 10,000 if you do this with me or sign up with my plan. It's like, I don't see it like that. I see it more into that side of things.
And I think it depends on what everybody's happiness is, right? Because like your happiness doesn't really involve anything that like you would have to manifest, where I do believe manifestation works for the right reasons, because there are certain things that like some people need certain things in their lives that they believe make them happy. And it's not necessarily a money or, a new car or a new boat or something, but like manifesting it in your brain to make yourself believe that you deserve or that you can do that.
Yes.
That I believe helps. And whether that's manifesting yourself to like make the decision to like quit your job and go do another job, like you do have to manifest that to like make that decision.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be a monetary manifestation.
Bingo. Yes. It's like some people want to have a partner, like people who are single, right? Like a lot of women, I'll listen to that lately. Like, I need a man that has this quality. Okay. but how are you feeling with yourself? Like, are you at peace with yourself? Are you happy with the woman you are and the choices you've made and where you are? And then when they realize this, like, oh, the guy will appear once your energy is radiating your self-confidence and that you are happy and at peace with yourself. So that's kind of like the way that I see the law of attraction working. It's like, as soon as you fix yourself, your whole aura and your whole energy is just kind of a magnet to the things that are vibrating in your same frequency. So if they are, secure, like big self-esteem up and everything's okay. And yeah, so all the things that are in the same way frequency will align in that radio station with you as well. So that's what I mean when I don't believe a lot of, because I see a lot of gurus out there. It's like, oh, come to my things and this or that, and I'll show you how to, concentrate and manifest. Like, no, one thing is to have a creative vision process, right? Like, I want to be here in a year, I want to do these things, and you have to action these things. But how are you sitting with the emotions right now to make these things happen? So if you are at peace knowing that you already have it all, then that's basically what you're putting out there in the universe. If you feel abundant, that's what you're going to receive, because you're putting out abundance. It's kind of like an echo, like a bat echo or dolphin echo. You're putting out there. It's like abundance, 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 like a ripple, and then it comes back abundance, abundance. So it's part of that, right? And trusting the process. Sometimes, like, not knowing where you're going means that you're actually walking and making your own path, right? Like, it's like you're not following somebody else's path. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing what I'm doing is right. Just follow your instincts, right? And then what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, make a mistake. So you learn from it, and then you pick yourself up and you go again. And I think that's the whole beauty of life. Like, you can make yourself over and over and over every day. You have the chance of doing it and doing it better and better and better, right?
Yeah, there isn't one path.
Yes, exactly.
And then when you were drowning and you heard swim and you felt a push, what was that?
I don't know. I can't explain it. Like, it's something, like, it was a very, very soft whisper. It was like just like an energy that I felt something kind of grab and push me over, right? And then while I was trying to move, it was kind of shifting me through the water, right? So I'm like, there has to be some kind of crossover between dimensions of things and, spiritual guides or things like that. And that's when, like, the journey of the crow comes from, or the name, because in these ceremonies, it was a constant reminder of crows all the time, right? So it's like, oh, okay, so I believe that is my spirit animal. And everywhere I go, like, it's funny, like, my wife at the beginning was a little bit skeptical. Now she's like, oh, there's your family all the time. Like, there's always crows around. There's always a crow around me. And it always happens when I'm looking for an answer. Like, should I do this or should I do that? Okay, there it goes. That's a good one.
So you don't believe it was a big sturgeon that just, like, pushed it towards the rock?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just energy, like some kind
Wasn't
of energy.
Pisces out there trying to help you?
No. Yeah, like Poseidon or something. No. I don't know what it was. I know it was a boost of energy, right? Something that allowed me to have, like, I felt warm, right? During that moment, it was like in hypothermia, just numbed out. I just felt something really warm, that kind of pushing me over, right? Like, just allowing me to move, right? And then it was
one of the most painful things that you felt.
Coughing out water, and it was like, what's going on? Like, even my sight, right? Like, I would go back and forth, like blackouts, like, what's happening? It's like, it was really intense to describe the emotion of what happened, and the feeling, the physical sensation. But I do know that two big things were left. Is like the big love that I felt and the warmth, and then the horrible feeling of coming back. I was like, I can't explain how. It's like you feel,
I was almost there.
Yeah, and you feel like, oh no, this feels horrible. I'm back into this dimension, back into this thing.
Almost in a happy place.
Yeah.
Highs and lows. So then the big question is, why are we all here?
To be ourselves, to be authentic, to be your truth, to walk your truth. There's no one way. It's just be yourself, and that is the essence itself, right? Like, because we're never constant. We're always changing, or that's the only constant is change. Like, we're always changing. It's a spiral, like a spiral of evolution, right? So just being, it's experiencing, and then sometimes you don't know what miracle you can be to somebody else's day by just being and doing something, even opening the door, or helping with the bag, or the advice you gave in the specific time they needed. That those are synchronicities. That's the universe. It's like using ourselves as mirrors all the time, because whoever you need at a certain time will show up, right? It's like the when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, but it's the same way around. When the teacher is ready, then the student will appear. So all these things are always mimicking back to us ourselves. It's just that. It's being authentic and being yourself, being true to what you believe. Right? And it doesn't mean that it has to be fixed. Sometimes you can change the way you're thinking on something. Today I can have an opinion on this, and then tomorrow it's like, oh, okay. So now I've seen this, and I've tried this, and I've learned this, and okay, maybe it's like that. So it's just being open, to the constant process of unlearning and learning, unlearning and learning. Right?
Love that. Everybody's favorite question.
Yeah.
Did you bring a dad joke for us, Ray?
Yes. So
is this a you dad joke or is this a kid?
It's
dad
a kid
joke?
dad joke. Yeah. Because my kid tells me dad jokes. That's our way of building, our bond. So I think, let me see if I can recall it correctly, because I don't want to screw the punchline. So he says, why did the skeleton miss the prom?
Didn't have a backbone?
Because he didn't have no body to go with.
There you go.
There you go.
Kids, it's the best when they tell you the dad joke. There's nothing better.
Yes.
My little 7-year-old comes home the other day and she goes, Daddy, I got a dad joke for you. I'm like, well, you can bring it on, kiddo. She goes, how many knees does a little boy have? I'm like, a left and a right? She goes, no, he has 3. A left knee, a right knee, and a weenie. And coming out of her little frame, I'm like, okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. First off, where is this kid?
Yes.
And did he show his weenie?
Yeah, we got to have a bigger talk. Ray, where can people connect with you, man?
So Instagram, The Journey of the Crow, Facebook, and I recently opened the YouTube channel because I wanted to share with everybody the first 48 hours of the fasting experience, so they kind of have an idea of what it was. And probably I'll continue, feeding the YouTube with a little bit of what I was talking about, not only guided meditations and breath works and things like that, but also talking about random things like, okay, how do I see the Bible tied with astrology and biology and these things to anybody who has, nothing else to do and wants to just listen while they're cooking or whatever, and these interesting rabbit holes, and it'll find, I think.
Do it.
It'll make people think.
Yeah, do it, man. I love that kind of content. There's space for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
I was all about the fasting. I don't know that I could do 48 hours of not being able to work, see my kids. I don't know that I could. I can stay off my phone, but I'd still want to go to work and do my emails and that kind of stuff. I could give up the phone for 48 hours though.
Yeah, I had,
but I don't know that I could sit solo for 48 hours.
I had to keep myself so busy, man. Yeah. Just the second my head went to food, I'm like, nope, we're doing shit.
Yeah, I almost feel like I don't want to know who I really am for 48 hours by myself.
You don't want to feast that demon. Yes. Funny thing is that I thought I was going to have peace and surrendering and quiet. When I go, this cabin has no shades. So it was almost moonlight, full moon. And the huge pond had all the frogs that I haven't seen before in my life.
Or heard all night long.
It was like a frogapalooza. They were they were, I don't know, mating season, whatever it was. And I couldn't sleep for the first 2 nights. So while I was sweating out, the detox and this or that. And I was like a lot of things, did cross the mind, and the thoughts and back and forth and the emotions and sitting down and crying. And I'm like, I can't sleep. I can't do this. So it was intense. It was tough. And the only thing that I did use was my phone to record the experience, but I didn't go posting or this or that. I have to keep myself away from the phone, right? And then read. I was reading a pretty cool book called the Kundalini Serpent Rising. So it talks about how to work around the energies in your bodies, your chakras and everything else. So it's a pretty good read that kind of has my eye on it for a while.
Well,
interesting stuff, man. Cool journey.
So cool to talk about it, Ray. Appreciate you making the time for us today,
Thanks,
man.
Chris, Jamie.
Thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Thank you so much for the invite. This
All
is
the best.
amazing.
We'll chat soon, man.